Hello. We're going to be teaching you guys how to play Banish the Snakes, St. Patrick in Ireland, a game by GMT Games, made in 2022. The game's designed by Kevin McPartland and Jerry Shiles, and graphics are by Terry Leeds. The game is for 1 to 6 players, and it takes 90 to 120 minutes, and it's rated a low complexity game and a high solitaribilty game. I think it's like a 9 on the solitaribilty and a 3 on the complexity. So I already have the game set up for a 2-player game. We're going to be playing with St. Patrick and St. Palladius. So the game comes with some reference cards. It comes with 6 of these. They're double-sided. The actions or the things that you can do is listed right here. It's pretty self-explanatory. This is the kind of the meat and potato of it all. It's an influence diagram, and that's going to be very important and hard for us to go over. So on a player's turn, you're going to draw and resolve a card from the event deck, and then you are going to take actions, and then after your actions have been taken, then you pass to the next player. Resolving the event deck is pretty simple. You just take one of these cards and you flip it over, and I don't know if you can see it, but that says current card, this says key card, and that says discard pile. At the start of the game, you almost always use Arthur, King of the Britons, and the reason why you're using him is you just really want this blue arrow. That's what the key card is for. So when you flip over a card, the key will point to a section on the card, and that is what you're going to be able to, well, the event's going to be. So in this example, if this popped up, then it would point at this one, which is pick any area with at least one Christian flock and flip any one pagan people in the area to its Christian side. So once you do the event, then you would take the key card and move it up to the discard pile, and then the current card would flip over to the key card. If you're playing with Arthur, King of the Britons card, instead of discarding him, you put it over here into the Scotland cards. There's a few types of events I wanted to go over. This one is a saint. So at the beginning of the game, we put 6 saints in there that we aren't playing with, so no St. Patrick or St. Palladius. When you get a saint card, you keep it. You can, depending on the player count, in 1, 2, or 3 players, you can have 3 keeper cards, as annotated right here. If you're playing with 4 or more players, you can only have 2 keeper cards. It's important for the saint cards because if one of your saints dies, if you have a saint card, then instead of St. Patrick becoming an acolyte, he becomes the follower, which is St. Auxilius. So basically at the start of the game, if you have one of these, they're just considered followers. They recommend tucking it underneath and trying to hide this card up here, because this is the ability that your saint has, but if he's following you, you don't get that ability. There's one saint that does have an ability at the bottom though. The other ones to go over are Gifts of the Holy Spirit. These are boons that you get, and whenever you get them, you just select one of these, and then you put them as your keeper card. I wanted to talk about this one. So, and this is more for like when you're actually playing the game. This is called, like this one up here is Druid Revival. You select a church and remove it, place it face down, and put a druid in its place. So you're trying to get rid of these druids on the board, and then you're trying to replace them with churches. So this is a level 0 church, a level 1 church, 2, and a 3. Okay, and then this last one I wanted to go over, oh, this is another one. So this is a save this card. So just like the saint, you'll put this right here, and then you'll save it for future use. And then this other card here is, it's a successful skirmish. So I guess we'll get to it in a bit, but that's one of the cards that can pop up, which will remove leaders on the board. So next we'll go over Paganism. So the Paganism counter starts here, and it goes down whenever an event card tells you And when it gets to here, the game ends immediately. And then that's where you tally up your points to see if you have a full victory, partial defeat, or total defeat. Whenever this paganism marker moves to one of these areas here, it says on the board Scotland Pagan. So then you turn Scotland from Christian to Scotland Pagan. And then you take the cards that are here, the event cards. So the King of Britain one would be added into it at some point. And then you shuffle it into the event deck and play continues. And when you get down to Strathclyde, you also turn it to Pagan, and then you take its event deck and shuffle it in, and so forth to England, and then the game will end. So we'll reset that to there. Okay. If an event card tells you to remove people, you want to make it, basically it's the most disadvantageous for you, the player. So right here, because we're playing with Politius, this is turned over to be a Christian person, and then you have pagan, pagan, pagan. So if a card said to remove a people, you would just remove the Christian guy, draw a new one from the supply, and place them as a pagan down here. And then if it tells you to remove, well, I guess that's Christian. This is Christian flock. That's pagan people. So if you're supposed to remove pagan flock, you move the rightmost one, and then this one you move the leftmost one, because you number these in order of the highest number. So like 6 is a really hard one to get rid of. So it's gonna be just harder. If you have to replace a leader, then you remove all the leaders. So if these 2 leaders are killed off, let's say, then you remove those leaders. You find the replacement for this leader first, which in this case, well, since he's already dead, well, so you'd replace this guy first. You'd go into here, take one of these, place them down here, roll the die, and then move the other leader, whichever one wins, up. You know, I'm pretty sure if it was like this guy would make it up first, because he's the only one surviving, and then you just replace these guys. At least that's how I'm going to play it. But if just one of these guys die, then you roll this die, green die, and whatever the number is. This province here says 1 to 4. That says 5 to 6. So this guy gets promoted, and then you draw a new one, and then you take the old one and throw them back in the supply. That way, you always get a unique person. Okay, that's removing leaders. So the High King is here. So you have High King, King, Chiefs, and then people. Those are the order of stuff, and then you have Druids. If the High King is killed, you roll the die, and you look at the kings. So that king says 1 to 2. This says 3, 4, 5 to 6. So then you would take the 3 king, and he gets promoted. And then you find a replacement for him by picking one of these 2. So then you roll the die, 6. This guy gets promoted to king, and then you pick a new one there. Okay. Over that. Okay. So now we go into the meat of it, which is actions. So on your turn, you have actions based on the amount of zeal that you have. So if you look at my board here, you see that Patrick starts with 1 less zeal. So all the other characters will start here, but he starts here. And then right below it tells you how many action points you get, which is 4. So then you put your actions at 4. So on your turn, you spend your actions. You just keep track. That's all this is for. If you come over to this spot, you have 2 actions. You do your 2 actions. You have a thing for making final effort. Making the final effort makes you die off. And then you put a relic wherever your guy died. And then that relic provides a bonus in that zone. So that would be a +1 zone. And then at a later turn, somebody could come over and convert that to a relic, and you'd flip it over and see that +2. So then this guy could walk around with a +2 relic and then you can pass it off as free as well. Oh, let me put that over there. Okay. This, and then once you are dead, you flip over your card, and you become an acolyte. Acolytes have less zeal, and if an acolyte dies, then the game will be over. If you get a saint card, then you can put it here, and then you immediately flip them over, and now you have a saint here. Well, another saint. You have a conversion slider down here, convert attempt slider. This is basically used just for your reference. And what this is for, this is where it says the meat and potatoes. So it depends on who you're trying to convert. You have to convert druids before you can, so you have to reveal druids before you can do any conversions. So for me to convert this guy, I'll just take this one for example, since I don't actually know what they all are. So if I wanted to convert this druid, I'd flip over, I would commit to it. So on my turn, I have 4 actions. I would, because it's a blind draw, I know I removed, for the sake of my beginner game, I removed all the -6s, so it's a little easier for me. So I know this is probably a 5 to a 1. I don't know what the lowest one is, honestly. I haven't looked. But let us say that it is, well, whatever. So I would have 4 actions. So I could, one of the actions you can do is prepare. Preparing gives you a +1. So I would start him, well, let's just say I prepare 3 times. So that gives me a +3 modifier. So then I flip this guy over, and he's a -3. So I would start, I'd go back 3, but then I'd go +1. If, instead of that, it was this guy, let's say, so he has a -6, so I would go all the way to -6, but then I prepared 3, so I go 1, 2, 3. So now I need to roll this green die, and I rolled a 5. So I need to get a number greater than what is here. So a 5 would be greater. And if I do that, then I succeed, and the druid is gone. If I match the same number, so if I rolled a 3, then nothing happens. I don't convert him, he doesn't run away. If I fail, I roll a 2 or a 1, then he wins. And on top of winning, if you're playing not the beginner mode, he takes a little dolmen, throw it in the zone that you're in, where he got awoken, and this will give a -1 to future conversion attempts for anybody who's there. If the only way to get rid of those is you roll a 6. If you roll a 6, then you can get rid of them. So that is how to convert people. The other actions that you can take are move, so it's 1 point, 1 action to move to a space, and then building a new church. So after you defeat a what are they called? A druid, you can build a church there. You can only do a build/improve church action in an area once a turn. So if I build a church here, I can't improve it, but I could move here if this wasn't there, and I could build a church here as well. Churches start off at level 0, and they add a bonus to that region based on their level. So if I had a level 2 church, which is this guy here, then when I'm converting in this area, I get +2 to this area. Okay. The other action you can take is give or take cards when another player's in your area. So if I was in the same area as St. Patrick, I could take his saint card or some other keepsake and vice versa. If you're in a spot with a relic, you can spend an action to turn it into, you make a relic. So you flip over the grave marker, and then now you have a relic, and you travel around and you get that bonus. And you can freely, like if I go to move and then I move away from it, then Palladius can pick it up. Like it's easy to hand that one off. And then the last thing you do is a final effort. So when you're doing final effort, like I said, it's when you're in the last zone. You spend an action to make one final effort, and similar to prepare, evangelize, except the convert attempt sliders move 2 boxes to the right instead of just 1. And you will lose 1 zeal in that effort, and your saint will die. So by doing one last effort, you move this convert 2 more spaces that way. So if I was in this spot and I was here, I could spend 1 action to prepare and then 1 action to do the final effort. So I would move 3 spaces positively against whoever I'm converting, but my guy will die. All right, so now we can go over the diagram. And this is why it says the meat and potatoes. All right, so the High King here, he only has influence over these kings. So the High King is this guy. So you have to add his modifier to any kings that you are trying to convert. So like this king here is a -3. So for you to convert this king, you have to add this -4 as well. So that'd be a -7. So obviously it'd be better to convert the High King first. But you cannot make any attempts at all until a druid is flipped over and or revealed. When they are hidden like this, they are considered to have unlimited power. So just take that into account. So I can't take this king if this is revealed, but this one's not, then I can't get this guy because I don't know what he is. So you have to go around and figure out who they are first. So the kings influence so the High Kings influence all the kings. The kings only influence their provinces. Yeah. And then the chiefs influence the people in their area. So the High King influences all the kings. The king influences the chiefs in the provinces. And then the chiefs influence the people in their area. So for you to convert this person, you would have to do -2 plus -2, so you'd be at a -4. Okay. That's yeah, and then the king, for modifiers to find out how to modify the kings, it's the worst modifier in the area. So if this druid is -2 and this one's a -6, you would use the -6, and so forth. And then relics and graves are added as well. The High King here, he's only influenced by things in this zone here. So the druid, any relics or churches, graves or dolmens. So that's this specific location. It's just kind of an important area. Okay. We went over the actions, and then death we went over. If you die, you flip them over. And then the last thing to go over is the game ending. So the game ends when every person is flipped over to become part of the Christian flock. So you want them not on the red side here. You want them all on this side. Okay, so it's instantly over at that point. The paganism counter or tracker, if it goes all the way to game ends, that's over. The draw deck runs out of cards. Well, the draw deck's like that, and you go to draw a card, then the game will end. And then if a acolyte, so if a saint dies, becomes an acolyte, and then the acolyte dies, then it will be over. And then you go through the points and figure out how many points you have. So I have the game set up for a beginner level, and I'll go through a playthrough of that in the next video. To do a beginner video, you just take out all the dolmens. You take out all the -6 druids, all the 0 relics, And then this one event card, which is a major invasion from England. So that would be a card from over here. That's beginner, so standard would have those in. And then there's advanced level. If you do the advanced level, you pick 3 of your favorite boon cards here, the Gifts of the Holy Spirit, and you remove them. And then you remove, well, some of these relics have a +3. Oh, there it is. Ooh. So you remove this relic, +3. So you're making the game much harder for you. And you begin the game with Paganism in Scotland. And you shuffle the Scotland cards into the deck at the start of the game. And the first event card is played at the blue level. So this King Arthur would not be there because it would already be shuffled in. And then the first card you flip over would be played at the blue level. Yep, and then they recommend you can choose different saints based on your level of stuff. So, yep, that's it. Okay, well, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.